Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a really cool tech talk with our sponsor. And I always get this tongue-tied up, Rokt. So hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Meg, feel free to correct me if I didn't. Meg is the talent acquisition specialist based in Sydney, and she's going to introduce everyone and kick us off with the presentation today. So over to you, Meg.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. And yes, it's pronounced Rokt, not Rocket or any other way you can think of saying that. I'll just quickly run through our agenda. So what we're going to be covering today, I'm going to introduce the panel. So we've got a few great engineers here to talk to you about life at Rokt. And we'll cover off what Rokt actually does, our culture. You get to hear from one of our graduated UNSW Rokt grads here. And then we'll run through some opportunities at Rokt, the recruitment process and some hints and tips for you if you want to apply, which we do encourage that you do. And then we'll do a deep dive into microservices at Rokt. So I'll let everyone introduce themselves, and I'll start with you, Han.
Hello, everyone. My name is Johan, and I'm a software engineer at Rokt. I have been here for a year. And in my spare time, I like to play with my two little bunnies, play the drums, and photo shooting.
Andre, over to you.
Hey guys, I'm Andre. I'm Director of Engineering at Rokt. Joined actually recently, around 2 months ago. Great company, guys. I really like it. Spare time. I like coding, and I play guitar and partying with friends, basically. Simple as that.
Hi, my name is Yingji. So I joined Rokt last year as a graduate software engineer. So it has been over a year since I work here. So in my spare time, I like doing photographing and video editing. Also, I have a very naughty little kitten. Yeah.
Great, cool. Thanks, Yingzi. Hi, I'm Seth Bell. I'm one of the VPs of engineering at Rokt. My division is responsible for the systems that provide experimentation, measurement, reporting, and insights on the Rokt platform. I've been with the company since the very beginning and see it grow from 4 people to about 300 today. On the weekends, I like to mountain bike and surf, and I have 2 sons that keep me busy too.
And hi, I'm Meg again. So I'm a talent acquisition specialist here in Sydney. I've been with the company for 5 years. I've been a part of the sort of graduate recruitment process for most of that time as well. And I like baking cakes, and going to the beach on my weekends. So I'll throw back to Seth, who's going to cover who we are and our culture.
Great, thanks, Megs. Looking forward to having one of your cakes one day. It's been a while. Okay, so first I'll start talking. I'll tell you a bit about, I guess, where we came from, and then I'll get to the slide on what we do and a mini demo. It's the easiest way to do that. So first up, we started a Sydney startup with a vision to becoming a world leader in e-commerce optimization technology. We've grown rapidly since those early days. There are about 300 people at Rokt now. We have offices in Sydney, New York, Singapore, Japan, New Zealand, and the UK. We continue to open more offices, and we have a team of over 100 engineers here in Sydney, and plans to add about another 30 engineers this year. We're also building out our New York team, engineering team, with the goal of adding about 50 engineers in New York this year or over the next 12 months. Ambitious goals, we're shooting high. Our technology is employed in 16 global markets, and we continue to expand into new markets every year. During our expansion, we've been very successful, obviously. We've seen a lot of transactions, over 4 billion transactions we have witnessed in our time. Our success has been recognized with several investment rounds, most recently an $80 million capital raise. So things are exciting. We're moving quickly. We're expanding. It's a great time to be part of the journey. Meg's jump to the next slide, and I'll try to tell you a little bit about what we do. So what do we do? So Rokt connects brands and publishers in a 2-sided marketplace, providing cross-sell and upsell opportunities and distributed commerce opportunities. and our aim is to increase the value of the transaction whilst improving the user experience, right? We've achieved this through our proprietary machine learning technology, which is built to predict or attempt to predict the next best action that might be available for a consumer, given the contextual information we have. So that's a lot of words, and there's a lot of things under the hood there, but if I jump into a demo, that's the easiest way to show you some of our products. So I will share my screen. Thanks for letting me take over. Can you see Justin Bieber?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So imagine I'm a fan of Justin Bieber. Nothing wrong with Justin Bieber if you are. But if I wanted to buy tickets for Justin Bieber, this is a demo, but it's similar to real experience you'd see on Ticketmaster, one of our partners. So I go to see the tickets in this demo, and then I'll be able to pick where I want to sit. So I'll just say general admission, and I will continue. So that's all part of the regular Ticketmaster flow. Now on to a review page. And essentially what our system has done here is render some parking options that are that's available for the user to add to their shopping cart or add to that purchase of the tickets. So typically partners aren't particularly good at doing this kind of what we call cross-sell upsell. They use very static messaging. They Ticketmaster in this example are using our platform here to decide what to show the consumer, how to word it, what UI to use, UX, those subtleties that kind of actually do have a remarkable impact on engagement. So we're seeing about a 50% uplift in the number of people who actually opt into parking in this example. So I can go ahead and add the parking to my shopping cart. Again, the machine learning has done its magic there to predict what I want. I go next, and I'll go ahead to payment. It's not a real thing, so I'm not actually buying anything, thankfully. And there you have it. Now I've done my purchase. And then this is another example of a Rokt placement where we are offering me something from HelloFresh, a $90 voucher. So some offer of value to me there, and also a lead, if you will, for our client HelloFresh. So there's just some examples of how we use our machine learning and our platform to help make some choice around the next best action and streamline the experience for the consumer and also generate some uplift for our partners and clients. All right, so I won't dwell on that. That's a rough overview of what Rokt does. Max, do you want to take over sharing again, if that's okay? And jump back to the slides?
Yeah, if you could stop sharing.
Oh, yes, thank you. There you go.
Awesome. Here we go.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Right. Great. So that's all great, and we're all very excited about what we do. And so a bit more about who we are. The Rokt values is core to us. It's important that we continue to build a team that represents our unique values and culture at Rokt. And I think we've got a great place, and we're doing a great job of maintaining that as we scale. A few things really quickly. Smart with humility. It means that we have no egos. We're all on the same team working together, and generally, it just reduces that kind of little bit of friction. So we look for people who are humble yet smart. The conquer new frontiers. It's about new challenges. It's about innovation. It's about growing and daring to fail effectively. So we will always challenge you to do bigger and better things. Customer obsession. Obviously, that's where the values are. We make sure we continue to focus on value for our clients. And enjoy the ride. My personal favorite is we work hard, and really we just want to have fun. If you're not enjoying your daily work, then there's really no point, right? So we try and make sure that you incorporate that fun aspect into it as well. Right, thanks, Megs. Next slide. Okay, a little bit on the company. Like any good tech company, we have a lot of perks and cool offices and things like that. So we offer things like free food, free lunches, snacks and drinks in the fridge, soft drinks, beers, wines, etc. So all that kind of usual kind of tech company stuff. We've got some great social clubs. Anyone can form a social club, and they're sponsored by the business. So we have a board games club, for example. We have a yoga club, fitness clubs. My personal favorite is the Makers Club, which is like we build things with 3D printers and CNC machines or microcontrollers. It's great fun. We have games rooms like table tennis, Xbox, that kind of stuff, and the office is right next to Central Station, so it's super easy for public transport. On the perks side, look, Rokt works really hard at ensuring that, again, there's a lot of value working at Rokt. We have a great equity program, so everyone gets a skin in the game and gets some side of the uplift. We're a private company planning to IPO it sometime in the future, and we're on a great trajectory. So that's a very exciting opportunity for everyone. And we have a great leave policy. We want people to take the holidays and get their rest. So if people take all their leave, we actually give them a bonus week, which I think is fantastic. We have a mental health care program, which is free healthcare services. We've just, especially in times like COVID, that's actually hugely valuable. So you can have anonymous healthcare, you can have counseling, you can seek additional help where you need it. And we have cool overseas trips. So the photo there, oh, back one, Megs, I'm not done. The photo there is I'll keep going.
It won't let me go back.
Oh, okay, right. So we have once a year we have annual trips when travel allowance, travel restrictions are allowing. Last year we went to Thailand, the whole company spent a week there sharing information and getting to know each other from different regions. Awesome. On the people development, I'll just one piece say there, Rokt really focuses on people development. We really care. We ensure that there are lots of mechanisms to grow and develop our teams and the individuals. We've got goal setting, we got training budgets where you're allowed to spend $3,000 of Rokt money on some training, either online training or courses, conferences and so on. We have a mentoring program, I think I mentioned. And then again, Rokt invests heavily in the people side of things. So there's a lot of effort that goes into that to ensure that our Rokt staff, Rokt team are looked after. Okay, that's enough for me. I'll hand over, you take it from someone else, take it from Yuhan, who recently joined us. Grad from UNSW, and she'll tell us her story. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, thanks, Seth and Meg. And hello, everyone. It's me again. I'm Yuhan. I graduated from UNSW in 2019, and then I joined Rokt grad program 2020. I'm here to share my experience with you guys, like how I feel so far, what does my day look like, etc. Now, here we go. If you like to learn new stuff and explore your potential, Rokt definitely is the best place for you to take the adventure. I have been in here for some time, but I'm still learning and picking up new things every day. At Rokt, we use so many different tech stacks, and you will find out what's your real interests and what you are passionate about. My team is mainly focused on our backend systems. Of course, we use C#.NET for most of the time. However, we use Clojure, which is a functional programming language, and I have never touched functional programming before. I'm picking up new skills and knowledge by completing small tasks and small research. Generally speaking, I'm a backend developer, but sometimes I code in JavaScript and TypeScript as well. This helps me to be developed as a full-stack engineer in my future career path. You are never limited at Rokt. Also, I had a view of the whole cycle of the production in the real industry, which I didn't have an idea what it is when I was in uni. I had a deeper understanding about test-driven development, like how to write unit tests, integration tests, and end-to-end tests, how to set up build pipelines, and how to do the deployment. Furthermore, I learned how to use other tools and platforms to solve problems and to fix the bugs. We use Datadog, which is a platform to monitor the service, database, and servers. When you encounter some unexpected behaviors, you will play around in that platform to see if there have some logs and clues for you to solve the issues. Those are my ways to improve my investigation and problem-solving skills. We have a lot of teamwork. You are not alone, and everybody gets your back. You are not only working within your own team, but also you have collaborations across the teams. Through this way, you will have a big picture of the company's ecosystem. I feel I get involved in the decision making, even though I'm a new grad, but my team is willing to listen my thinking, my suggestions, and my solutions. I participate in the meeting with the product managers to know the requirements of our partners, our clients, and then do the deliveries. I feel I'm highly involved in the business flow. Yeah, it's my experience so far, and I pretty enjoy my staying here. I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys join us and make something different together in the future. All good.
Thanks, Yuhan. And now we're going over to Andre to talk about opportunities at Rokt.
Yeah. Hey guys. Thanks, Johan. So if we think about it, there are lots of opportunities here. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's really strong, like technically very strong company. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join it. And if we think about the opportunities, there are like three big pillars. One is like you're going to work with the strongest engineers in Sydney and New York. As Seth mentioned, we are building our technical presence in New York right now, so we're hiring there as well. But in Sydney, we have an established team, 100 engineers, and we have very high bar for engineers to join. Yeah, so we have number of rounds of interviews when we make sure that they are like excellent in what they're doing. They know things in depth, and they match our culture in terms of the ego thing. As Seth mentioned, it's actually super friendly environment here. And at the same time, people contribute continuously on hourly basis. Like there are workshops, there are implementation things. So it's really super exciting. In terms of tech, as we mentioned previously a little bit, like it's cutting edge, but there are things that are used everywhere, like React and Java.NET Core, C#. But there are things that represent Rokt as a very strong tech company. Like we have excellence in machine learning because of the type of business that Seth described a little bit earlier. We have very strong SRE, so site reliability engineers, and this is something quite new for Sydney. It's a very well established thing in States and in big companies like Facebook and Uber. But at the same time, it's so difficult to find strong SRE engineers, let's say. And it's a very interesting type of work as well, because you take care of the platform, you take care of the stability of the system. And we will touch on it a bit later on the technical deep dive. We obviously have lots of micro front-end things that we're doing on React, on TypeScript. So we have different types of teams, front-end, back-end, and platform. As I mentioned, we are investing into Kafka right now. We're moving to Kafka, and it's also an excellent, probably some of you heard about it, it's an excellent messaging platform. This is regarding the technical strengths. Yeah. The second thing is it's quite like not many companies right now in Sydney can give you a chance to work with really high load and high availability systems. Like in our case, we need to make sure that our product is always available and not just in Australia. Yeah, the biggest market is in States. We have markets in Europe, in Japan, around the world. So it has to be very stable system of systems. And we have quite high load. Again, we're going to touch on particular specifics a bit later. But very rarely you can get an opportunity to work with it straight away, like because you're going to touch it. If you join a company that is huge, let's say, I don't know, 3,000 people, and some of these companies, yeah, they also have high load, but you won't be able to deal with it in real time with your own experience when you build your own service that is going to be deployed and going to be under this load, which is super exciting. And the third thing, and that's what Johan mentioned a little bit as well, like we really, because we are scale up, yeah, so we used to be a startup, now we're scale up and we're growing very fast and we have ambitious goals like every quarter. We need everyone to contribute, and we get everyone's input on product side of things and also on technical side of things. So everyone contribute to everything, obviously with particular, like, it's not a chaos, don't worry about that. But at the same time, there is a chance to everyone to contribute. And because we hire like super smart people, it's working like really, really well. Basically, that's it for this slide.
Cool, thanks, Andre. I'm now going to run through our interview process so you can get a bit of insight into how we run things here for when you apply. So obviously the first thing to do is apply. If you're going to apply today, just watch out, our careers page has a little bit of a broken link. So I would recommend going through LinkedIn. But in the future, that will be fixed. So you can actually apply through our careers page. The first step is a 15-minute aptitude test. I'm sure you guys are very used to these at uni. We get everyone across the entire business outside of engineering as well to do this. And then you'll get a HackerRank skills test, which is a 2-hour test. And it just really looks into those fundamental computer science skills that you have. If successful off the back of this, you'll do a coding a coding interview. So you'll meet with a couple of our engineers and they'll do some live whiteboarding to see your sort of train of thinking, and that's 1 hour. Then off the back of this, there'll be a values fit interview. You get to meet with one of our heads of engineering or VPs of engineering, like Seth. And they just want to make sure that you are a good values fit. So what he ran through earlier, that you tick all those boxes and make sure that you encompass those values and are a good fit for our team. And you also get to have just a meet and greet with our CTO. So he's actually based in New York, but he still wants to meet all of the engineering team. It's a bit of a geek out session. Make sure that you've got that passion for tech that he's looking for in his team to help drive the team forward. And then the final round we have is called a bar raiser. This basically just asks, do you raise the bar as the next grad that we're hiring? So they ask a series. It's conducted by someone outside of engineering to get that outsider's perspective on whether you'd be that next best hire for us. And sure, all things going well, we'll send out an offer and you sign the contract, and now you're a rock star. So we are hiring for this year into next year. We've started sort of signing on some people for 2022 in their final year of uni at the moment. So it is a good time to get in right now. In terms of what we actually look for, on the application, we want to see a degree in computer science. I'm sure that everyone here would be on track for that. And we do have a high bar, so we are looking for distinction or a high distinction average, specifically in those computer science subjects. And we want to know that you are going to sort of push it to the next level. So are you doing anything exciting outside of university, or what's exciting projects or any industry experience? And lastly, it's pretty obvious to have a well-formulated resume that you've got that attention to detail that we're actually looking for. From the skills testing, we want to know that you've got great problem-solving skills and that foundational knowledge of computer science. We don't expect you to be expert level yet. We're here to help you learn and train you on that, getting to that next level, but we want to know that you have that foundational knowledge. And in the interview stages, we're looking for clear and concise communication. There's a lot of stakeholders at Rokt that you need to be communicating with day to day. So we just need to make sure that you can get your points across clearly. And that demonstrated passion for technology, where we have that high bar. We have people that are really excited by what we're doing, and we want to make sure that you are one of them. And do you embody our Rokt values? So going back to those values, do you tick off all those boxes? If yes, then we want you on our team. So that's what we are looking for when you apply. Cool. So now we're going to do a deep dive with the engineers here on the microservices at Rokt. Not my level of expertise, but I will pass it over to the team.
We tried to teach her when we were preparing the slides.
Hey, hello everyone. It's me again and again. Today we are going to talk about microservices. I believe you guys heard about microservices around a lot recently, but microservices, what are they? A microservice is an application architecture that instead of having a big monolith web application that just does everything, you split up into a handful of other processes. So it separates business logic functions. You pick discrete business logic functions, let's say maybe authentication or logging or user management, a very specific thing, and you put it into its own application. And those different microservices can talk to each other, and that's almost always done over a well-defined API or queues. There are several advantages of microservices. First of all, it's language independent. Because these microservices communicate via HTTP or queues, it doesn't matter what language is happening on the backend. As long as they conform to HTTP standards, they can communicate. Another advantage is that it allows you to actually split up each microservice into its own team. From my personal experience, I'm more productive when I'm working in a small group. It also isolates faults and exceptions inside your program. So if one microservice fails, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire application fails. Since an application is composed of multiple microservices, which share no external dependencies, scaling a particular microservice instance in the flow is greatly simplified. Now, Andrew is going to talk about how microservices help Rokt to keep things running under load and stay highly available.
Yep, thanks. So thanks. It's a great intro, and we really benefit a lot from the microservices architecture at Rokt. I'm sure, I hope during your courses in uni, you touched on the relatively new microservices exist for quite some time now. It's a not new thing, but I hope you touched on it on one of the courses, like why it is important to split things properly and to keep the boundaries between them. As I mentioned, like at Rokt, we really deal with a high load. So on average, it's 300 TPS. And if you guys don't know, TPS is transaction per second. It's one of the metrics for the to describe the load on the system, on the input of the system in our case. So 300, it's an average one. Sometimes it peaks much higher when there's like, let's say Black Friday in States, or not only in States. So it's quite high load. And at the same time, when Seth did the demo, you could see that we integrate, let's say in that demo, it was Ticketmaster, but we integrate with one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in the world. Most of them they're in States, of course, in the United States. So you can imagine that when we integrate and when we present something on their website through our technology, it has to be extremely fast. Yeah, we cannot lose. Well, I'm not even talking about seconds. I'm talking about hundreds of milliseconds. So if it's something works or takes to load or to react longer than, let's say, 100 to 200 milliseconds, for us, it's already a big problem. So our systems, they need to work fast. They need to work fast in isolation, and they need to communicate between each other in the fast way, because at the end of the day, for the customer, it's quite synchronous experience, because you're buying a ticket, and then let's say for Ticketmaster example, and then you see additional suggestions, let's say about the parking. Our whole stack from end to end need to make the decision within this, let's say 200 milliseconds. So it's about rendering the widget up to the getting the data through our APIs, run the analysis based on the models that we trained to predict what customer wants to buy for this particular spectrum of choices, and then return it back. And it's a synchronous operation, so it cannot be slow. So it's, again, this is another thing why separation of concerns is so important. We're going to touch on it a bit later. Like, I'm going to add more things. And obviously reliability, we cannot go down. We have to be 24/7 uptime mode. Of course, it's ideal situation. Of course, even like if you guys know, like Microsoft was down 2 days ago, Azure portal was unavailable for people cannot get data from Azure portal for 6 hours. It's, I think on my memory, it's third time Microsoft goes down with the Active Directory and cloud things. It's just, so it happens to everyone. It really depends how things are separated and how the concerns are separated. To give you an example with Microsoft, when customers, or let's say DevOps people, couldn't get into Azure portal, at the same time, thanks God, everything worked fine in terms of their cloud platform. So all the websites, apps, everything was running fine. I mean, it's a very simple example. Obviously, the split is even more, but this is just one of them. And in our case, we need to make sure that our systems are reliable. All components can recover, or if one of the components goes down for seconds, there is a recovery plan, and other parts of the system, they still respond and they still work. And it's like very, very important. And on top of it, we work with huge amount of data. Yeah, sometimes it's gigabytes per second, literally. So as you can see, there are multiple parts of this equation. And to make sure that we serve the customers, serve our partners, people, companies, providers who are buying the ads through us, all these things, to make sure that it all works properly, the separation of concerns and clear boundaries between domain services, let's call them that way, for the sake of this presentation, needs to be separated. Yeah, so we need to have a separate services, multiple services for data streaming. We need to have micro front ends and microservices with APIs that serve this micro front ends for the presentation layer. We need to have a separate microservices that take care of decision making and integrating with machine learning models and stuff. So all this really helps us to be always on uptime, serve requests as fast as possible. As I said, like within 100 to 100 milliseconds max, and deal with a very high load. And now let's probably go and switch to the actual example of one of the microservices and one of the engineers who contributed and was involved in building it.
Thanks, Andrew. So I hope so far you guys all get a bit familiar with what microservices are. Now I just want to show you guys an example of one of the data pipeline built by microservice in my team. So I want to first explain like what my team doing. So basically I'm working in customer data service team. We highly focus on handling and processing customer data in Rokt data network. We also need to consider like how to store, consume, integrate, and manage those data by different data entities and service. Maybe in the graph, there has something you guys not familiar with. So before I go through the pipeline, I want to quickly explain the AWS service we're using it and what they do. So first is AWS Lambda service. What is Lambda? So basically Lambda is the event-driven serverless computing platform. We can run the code in response to the events and automatically manage the computing resource required by the code. The second one is Amazon S3 bucket. So S3 bucket basically is a cloud storage resources. But it's similar to the file folders. It can be stored object, which consists of data and its descriptive metadata. The last one we use is SQS. So SQS stands for Simple Queue Service. It's a fully managed message queuing service, which enables us to decouple and scale microservice. It also helps, so basically it's help microservice to communicate with each other easily over the same network. So okay, now we can jump into the data pipeline. So basically this whole data pipeline, what they do, basically it's route data from data gateway and then doing some encryption, validation, transformation, and finally loading them into a data warehouse. But I will go through each component now. So in the beginning, we can see there has a data gateway. So data gateway is our core system in our data network, since it's the place of all the customer data coming through. It needs to be highly scalable because the volume might be a variable over the time. So for example, in peak hour, we need to handle around 600 transactions per second. In this case, microservice help us easily to build a highly scalable service. It will support infrastructure level autoscale and container level autoscale. So what's infrastructure level autoscale? Basically, it will help us to adjust capacity, resource, so it can be maintain a steady, predictable performance at the lowest cost as possible. The container level autoscale allow us to scale up the container numbers in peak hour to handle large volume of traffic and make sure the service will never go down. Also, I want to mention in this service, we use Golang as our programming language. since it offers high performance and the ability to translate the data in low latency. After that, we get all the data, we get the source data from data gateway. We have a Lambda service that does the data encryption and validation. Then we will save the valid encrypted data into a cloud storage, which is S3 bucket. So how we actually communicate with S3 bucket and data processors. So thanks for the S3 event notification features. It allows us to receive notification when certain events happen in the S3 bucket. So once we detect there has new file be written in the S3 bucket, it will push a notification message to simple queue service to notify the data processor service it has new data ready to process. This is actually how we communicate each service and do real-time data streaming. So next, when data processor service detect the new file coming through, it will start a lot of different pieces of work, like doing data unification, data replication, classification, and also filter out some customer personal data. After all the process finish, we stop the output data into another S3 bucket. So as you can see in this service, we highly focus on data processing. Hence, we choose Python here. It's the language which is commonly used in dealing with complex data sets. So you can see like we use different programming language in different service based on the different purpose to achieve the service best performance, which is we're not able to do if we combine them into a monolith service. So in the final step, we have a data loader. So we will load data periodically from S3 bucket to data warehouse, which serve more downstream systems. Unlike machine learning team will use those data to train the different models like business analyze, highly reliable those data to doing some analyze, etc. Yeah, so definitely microservice help us to build a very high scalable and efficient data pipeline. Also, it's easier for us to add the new features and split the work between the team to achieve a faster, smaller and faster development. It also helps us improve fault isolation. We can easily monitor and track failure for each service and apply a quick fix for it. So I just want to make an example. For example, like we can see there has notification queue popping up into the notification message popping up into the SQS. So if data processor didn't process the message successfully, the failure message will actually flow into another queue. Basically, it's that letter queue to store those failure message. So if we detect that, we can actually look back like what's going on and we didn't lose any data, we can like reprocess those failure message. Okay, so definitely it has a lot more about like microservice, but due to the time limit, I can't actually go further deeper. So, but I still hope you guys get some basic understanding on it. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Ingrid. Quick one, I just wanted to add one more thing. So our CTO is the dude who worked for Netflix, yeah? And like he worked there, said, I don't remember, it was like between 12, 14, 15, 2011 to 15. Anyway, at that time, they already were dealing with lots of load and lots of scalability problems, and we're using obviously microservices. And then he worked for a Datadog, and now he's with us. So it's another great opportunity to work with a very strong leader in technology.
Yeah, and thanks, Andre. I don't remember the dates, but whilst we're on the C level, I guess we should mention Bruce, the CEO, Bruce Buchanan, was actually the CEO that built Jetstar to the company it is today from the ground up, right? So we have we're very fortunate to have Bruce on board as well. So a great team at the top.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoy the presentation. We've got lots of opportunities at Rokt. If you apply for the graduate program, we sort of look at where you might fit in a team according to what your interests are and what works best for us as well. So it's a good opportunity. And yeah, back for Q&A now, I think.
So thank you so much for giving us insight into Rokt and also into microservices. The first question I have for the team from the students is your company open to hiring international students for its intern or grad roles?
Hi, I'll answer that one. Yeah, so we are. We obviously, at the moment in COVID, our preferences are in Australia, just because we find the onboarding experience much easier if you're actually in the country and in the office, so that you can sort of do it face to face. So yes, if you're an international student in Australia, definitely apply.
Yeah, and actually, Inji and myself, we are international students, so yeah, it's not a problem.
And I am an ex-international student, but now I'm not a student anymore, unfortunately, but
always a student though, right? Student of life.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The next question is, what is the remote working situation like at the moment?
I'll jump in maybe here. So we, that's a great question. We get it quite a lot. We were obviously all work from home until relatively recently. But we do recognize that with the fast-paced and highly collaborative environment we have, that we actually really benefit from all being face-to-face. So we do encourage people to be in the office. We're back in the office 5 days a week. That said, there is flexibility around working from home, and people choose to elect to work from home from time to time. It's something they engage with their manager on. But again, it's something we encourage people to be in the office. And we've invested heavily in making the office a good place to work, with great perks and so on. So if you work from home, you miss out on all that good stuff too. So that's basically our stance at the moment. We are also watching this space, of course, that we will continue to look at the situation with COVID and also what other companies are doing over time, and then we may react to that. But for the time being, that's our stance.
Cool, thank you. Another question: what are the best parts and the worst parts of working at Rokt?
Oh, I won't answer. I think maybe the grads could jump in, or ex-grads, I should say, could jump in and give their view. I'd actually think there's loads of best parts, and I could go reel them off. But probably, if I'm honest, the distance between the New York and the Sydney offices, whilst we're in this period where we're splitting the responsibilities out. As soon as we have autonomy, then we will have less crossover. But there's a bit crossover, so I think that's a challenge that we're facing right now. But I'd let Yingzi and Yuhan answer maybe what their thoughts are on that.
So that definitely has a lot of good part, working as a grad in Rokt. First, you get to there are lots of different things you didn't get to learn in a uni, and you have you're working with smart people, you learn a lot of things, and also there has lots of benefits at Rokt, they actually take care of your mental and physical health, and then they want you to keep learning new things. They give us level up allowance, which allow us to actually choose what we're interested in tech and keep building up our ability in tech. I don't really think so far I made any the worst part working here. Everything is very positive, and I'm really happy in the past 1 year. Yeah, it's maybe it's different between the teams. So basically my team is a bit busier, but I think it's a really good opportunity, and I really like it challenges things. So basically different people's view have different, so I like keeping myself busy, so that's the good part for me. So, but I will pass it to Yuhan to like talk about her feelings.
Yeah, I totally agree with Inji. So for me, it's like we have like so many benefits. We have free food, we have free drinks, and if you feel tired, you can play ping pong with your team member, and you can play PS4 and some games with your team member. And also, at Rokt, I feel like everybody are friends, and your managers, your team member, they care about you not only in the on the work but also in your personal life. You can talk like your stress, your feeling, and what's happening in your personal life to your colleagues. And for me, there is no worst part at the moment so far.
I can add the worst part then. Let's be honest, guys. Okay. No, the truth is, like, I think the best and worst is the same thing. Like, we are very busy. Yeah, we're constantly busy, and there are lots of like new problems to solve and new things to think about. Comes like every, I don't know, sometimes every hour. So I wake up and I read the chat that we have new things that we need to discover. So it's great, but obviously it's something that you need to learn to manage time and not to burn out. But we're constantly busy. I love it. Yeah. So that's why I like working here. And I think it's really good that we can contribute together to this problem, solve them. And then we don't rest. There is another problem that we solve, and then another problem. So it's very interesting.
Am I throwing you mine too now? Yeah, I think you just need to be very agile to work at Rokt. It's a very, very fast pace, and it's not always a straight path. It's sometimes, it's like this. You kind of just have to keep up with things that are changing always, but it suits some people, it doesn't suit other people. And you've just got to be able to enjoy the ride when you're on that path.
Thanks, everyone. The next question is actually combining two. One student has asked if we could find out more about the projects that Rokt has worked on, and if there's any in particular that you get really excited about. Alternatively, what is a really interesting problem that you've solved at the company?
An engineer.
I think maybe Andre, you could talk about Disco or something.
Yeah. So I'll talk about Disco, but at the same time, I just want to emphasize again, like, we have non-stop interesting problems and everything. Like, and most of the time, these engineering problems, they have like multiple parts. Yeah, so it needs to work. It needs to work fast, and it needs to be efficient. So this is one aspect of the things. In terms of the product, so basically everything that we are touching, or we improving, or we introducing, it's interesting because there are a number of high-level expectations on why it should working so fast and why it should be so robust, etc. In terms of the interesting projects or products, so Disco is our global program, the thing that we're enabling right now. Like I said, I'll give them like sort of the overall history of the company. It's all started with if you think about when you book something or you buy something online, once you paid for the product, there is a confirmation page, and that's where Rokt originally started. That's where Rokt started showing things, started showing recommendations, external recommendations as well. We are moving right now. I mean, it's already started, and we're moving. We're having a great progress. We're moving to the in-transaction moment when we can start selling things through the partners. So let's say Ticketmaster, let's say when someone is choosing, as on the demo, just choosing the Justin Bieber show that, let's say he going to attend, and we're like, all right, by the way, there are these t-shirts from this provider that we have, or there is, and we know that this person wants a t-shirt. That's the beauty and magic part about our business, yeah, because our ML predicts what this type of person wants to buy additionally when they go to a concert. It can be not just the parking spot. It can be a t-shirt, or it can be a new subscription to Spotify, or particular thing related. I don't know. I know people aren't buying DVD right now, but let's say something, something on the Apple Store related to this release of this new song or album. So we are moving into this in-transaction moment when we're enabling multiple parties, so people, party that's presenting it or selling the actual tickets to the show, and the party that cross sells additional things, and we are splitting money. So basically, customer pays. We need to take our part. We need to share part with the provider. Let's say with the Apple. Let's say. As you can see, it has to be, again, it has to be seamless. It has to work fast. And at the same time, when money are involved in the multi-step workflow, it's another complex thing to solve, right? Because everything related to money should be very robust. We should be able to roll back. We should be able to do not multiple things. It should be visible to all the parties, and the most importantly, it should be convenient for the customer. So that's one of the examples.
Thank you for sharing that really interesting example. This is a question, I think maybe for Meg. Does Rokt offer software engineering internships?
Unfortunately, at this point in time, we don't offer internships. It's something that we've looked into quite often, and also quite often they fall over sort of the summer period where we kind of go on leave over Christmas and New Year's. So, and then we also have had a global kickoff event, which has been overseas. For example, last year pre-COVID, we went to Thailand in January, and that sort of just means that the sort of summer internship program would be very interrupted by us not actually being present. We're kind of looking into sort of more long-term internships, but it's just not something we've kicked off yet. So sort of the graduate program is something that we focus on at the moment.
Sure. I think this subject is something that Seth touched on briefly, but maybe someone could give a little bit more detail. The question is, what avenues for self-development or training are there at Rokt?
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. So I did touch on it at the beginning. So in the training, for the training aspects, that we have the $3,000 budget for each year that the engineers can spend on whatever they want as far as their training needs. They work out what that might look like with their manager, typically broadly aligned with the Rokt mission, but it can actually be something they're passionate about as well. Then they would have regular sessions with their manager, where we would establish their goals and the development plans and their aspirations and so on, and we would then work with them to ensure that we're taking steps towards that. So identifying what are the gaps in your current skill sets and capabilities, how do we address those things, what is expected in your roles at the next level, what does your career trajectory look like, and how do we progress you along that. So it's always an incremental thing, getting progressing along, but that's an active piece of the development program, and we do a lot of training around that with the managers as well. And then there's also like we have twice yearly we have a more detailed deep dive where it's a process of digging into the details of how the individual's tracking, and then working with them on where they might need some help, where they're really excelling, and so on. So there's a lot of effort that goes into those kind of things, but also just on the job. Rokt has so many different opportunities. We've got lots of teams. We encourage people to move between teams and into region as well now. So you could go and jump over to New York for a while. And likewise, so those present many different opportunities for people to experiment in different kind of technologies or different teams and different problem spaces. And I think that's a lot of your development is actually on the job, right? So developing on the job as opposed to additional courses and so on. And that's I'm quite impressed with the effort we go to, and I think we have getting great results in that space.
Okay. This question is more along the lines of your enjoy the ride value. We have a fun question and we like to ask a lot of our guests. And that question is, what is your opinion of pineapple on pizza?
Good. Thumbs up.
No,
I like both. But what? Why? Why you don't like?
It's terrible. It's no, it's an awful idea. Hot pineapple. No.
What about
pineapple
fritters? Don't you like pineapple fritters? You're English?
No.
What? Seth, what about pizza on pineapple then?
I've never tried that, but I'm willing to try anything. But I'm not really sure if that's going to fly either.
like a tiny pineapple. Tiny pizza on a tiny pineapple, something like that. I love
really,
it. I don't know.
How about,
I think
how about you eating pizza with pineapple on the side?
that's okay.
Pineapple juice.
What percentage of people are thumbs up versus thumbs down from your experience?
This has
Oh,
been
no,
a
I'm-
really polarizing question.
Oh, I'm completely outvoted. I'm gonna have to do a poll Rokt wide now.
Yeah, man.
All right, thanks for answering that, guys. We have a question specifically about product manager roles from one student. The question is, will you be hiring for the associate product manager role this year? And if so, when would that role open and what does the process look like?
Yeah, so we go through a bit more ad hoc intakes of associate product managers. So it's kind of on a need-to basis. I'm not too sure what the pipeline for that's looking like because we just had about 3 or 4 start in February. We will definitely be open to them again towards the end of the year, more likely, I'd say. The process is somewhat similar to the engineering process without some of the technical tests, but you do more of an exercise that would lead into a technical interview on product problems, followed by the values interview, meet the chief of product and a bar raiser. So it's a fairly similar process, just a bit of a technical difference. But yeah, I would watch this space towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I would add to that. Thanks, Meg. That we're always looking for talented people, and sometimes we don't have roles necessarily open. But if someone we meet that we're really impressed with, then we want to find them a space, right? So we're always growing rapidly, and we know that if there's not a role open right now, there will be, and we certainly want to find good people. So go ahead and apply anyway, and we may say later, or we may have an opening.
Thanks. We next have a question about what internal mobility is at Rokt, whether that's moving between countries or roles, such as from software eng to a product manager role.
I think Seth touched on this a bit earlier. So it's happened. It's definitely happened. We've had people move from customer success roles into product, I'm not sure we've had product into eng or eng into product from memory, but there is a bit of, if you're interested in opportunity, we are always, you'll go through our essentially interview process in terms of doing the technical side of things to make sure that you are still at the level that we are hiring at. We want to make sure that we're not setting you up for failure. So if it's something of interest, you can always work towards it. Between teams, I know a lot of people kind of are interested in trying something different in a different engineering team, but we don't want you to move into that team and fail. So we want to ensure that, you're working towards it always, and training. You can use your level up allowance to do that. And then, there's that opportunity is always there.
Cool. Our next question is about the culture at your company. How would you describe the culture? Is it more akin to a startup culture or a big tech company?
Seth, do you?
I don't want to do. I would love to hear from Johan and Yingzi on this one. That they're the most recent additions, and I would love their view.
So for me, I feel like we have we have the both. For the startup culture, it's like everybody is close to each other and we know each other very well. And from the big company culture, it's like we first of all we have a lot of benefits, and we use up-to-date tech stacks. And yeah, that's from my opinion. How about Yingji?
I think our company's culture is more, from my point of view, it's more like for tech companies like culture, because I don't think we're actually a startup now, because we keep growing, and I think it's definitely more than startup. And then for our culture, we really like, we're highlighting like all the people are smart and humility, and also we like love the people, love the meeting new challenges, and we also in our team, the team around the Rokt, we keep like looking through using the new tech stack and keep like there has new things keep coming through, and also yeah, I think it's definitely more than the startup. It's more like tech aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
For my
Thanks.
point of view. Yeah.
I just want to add, because I worked in a big tech companies, in fintech companies, in startups, not in startups. I feel that it's a scale-up culture here. Yeah, so it used to be startup and it's growing now. But like, if you want to compare in your head, like how it looks like, I didn't work for those companies. I was going through interviews process, and I have a number of friends who work in those companies that I'm going to mention. But I feel that Rokt is targeting, because we are disruptors in a good way. Yeah, we want to disrupt the market. We want to disrupt the tech. So our role model is obviously companies like Uber, like Facebook. So really super smart, super techy companies that are growing. Well, again, I'm comparing with the past when they were like pretty small. That they need to grow, but they don't want to become a corporate thing. So that's probably where we are.
I'll just add, so from a office perspective here, yeah, I like to describe us as being kind of a teenager in that growth period, coming out of the startup, moving into a bigger tech company. But we have a very open office. We are still in the office. We all know each other really well. You kind of recognize everyone's faces, if not know them quite well. We're across 2 floors now, which is making it a bit more sort of dispersed, but we make a real effort to like have lunch together. We sit down all on one floor to eat with each other. So it's still kind of got that personal feel of a startup, I'd say.
On the culture side, I'd just like to note for the students, every rep here is wearing a company t-shirt, but it was not planned at all. So I think that's something to say.
Honestly, if you go around the building, half the people are wearing them, or caps or whatever. We've got all the swag.
Yeah.
Walk around Surrey Hills or the Central Station, and you'll see a lot of people representing Rokt. People
hoodies, everything.
They come up to us and like, "Who are you? What are you wearing? Why?"
Okay, our next question from student is, how much do you care about academic scores in university, and what are your requirements for programming levels? I note that many programs were mentioned in the presentation, but maybe there's, I guess, someone can outline the expectations for someone who goes through that grad screening process.
So I did mention this. We do generally look for distinction, high distinction average in coding courses. That is because we have so many applicants. We have a really high bar from our grads. So that is something that we look at. It's obviously only at that graduate stage. Moving on from that, we don't even, consider university grades. It's just that is kind of, you don't have any industry experience really yet. So we're kind of looking at grades and your potential moving forward. So it is something that we look at, but it's not going to, impact anyone for the rest of their lives.
Cool. Our other question is about how team members in the Sydney office work with other offices around the world, whether it's New York or somewhere else.
I'll grab this one and maybe someone else can jump in. So we, so as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to separate out the responsibilities so there's autonomy between the regions, but that's a work in progress and it's going to take some time. There are some teams, many of my teams aren't really impacted, but there are some teams where they have responsibilities in both regions, or engineers in both regions, or product people in both regions, and so there's some crossover between them. But that's we're fortunate in engineering that it's mostly we're buffered by the product team, so they take I guess the brunt of that. It does make things a bit more challenging, but we do manage it. You just got to be really tight with communication and so on. But hopefully we get to a future world where, much like the Googles and so on, where they've just got offices in different regions and they can work autonomously.
Yeah, and we obviously use like the tools that everyone uses to make, like in the global companies, not even the huge global companies, but the global companies that are everywhere. We use chat system, right? We are using G Suite overall for everything. We have very good high quality TV screens and video cameras in all our meeting rooms. That's all connected to our internal system, and we can like jump on meetings straight away from our, and we, on top of it, I think everyone, we have this tech allowance for laptops or whatever you want to buy to work on. Seth, is it like 3.5K per year now?
3.2, yeah.
3.2, okay, almost. 3,200 per year, and you can buy a laptop you want, and then you can work from everywhere. You can join from everywhere, from your like desk or from home or from the meeting if you want to use both cameras for some reason. So this is the approach. And again, yes, sometimes it's challenging, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity, at least how I look at it, is to see how this type of growth happens in the tech companies, you know, and to contribute and to help. So it's a win-win.
Thank you. I have some questions for the engineers. This is more around the process of working. Like, what is a project life cycle like at your company, and how do your teams work?
Johan, you can see, you want to jump on this one?
Yeah, so basically, for my team, so as I mentioned before, I'm the customer data service team. Basically, our client is mostly like the team, so they all want us to provide them like some kind of data stuff. So basically, I think it's more like we have like weekly, we have our sprint. So basically, we have like several tickets we want to do in maybe in my team is like a week. So basically we split those tasks between the team for those and we didn't get those tickets. So we didn't create those tickets. Basically this has like our product manager have to communicate with other between the team. So sometimes we have to work in the same thing together, but sometimes we just basically work in different components based on what we are going to, based on our planning. Yeah, that's like how we work in my team. Yeah, so like I think Yuhan's team has more like their product is more like in the client side. So
Yes.
she can talk more about this.
Yeah, so I worked in the distributed commerce team, and for us, we mostly to satisfy the new client's requirements or to do some customized existing providers' requirements. So we have like the weekly workshop with the product manager to say how can we design the new solution or add new features into the existing system, and to say how could we do for the business. And for my team is the backend team. So we have a lot of interactions with the front end team and also data team to fetch the data and how to pass our data in to the front end. Yeah, that's almost what my team does every day.
Thank you. I next have a question about how Rokt prioritizes diversity in the company. So I guess this is open to anyone, whether it's anecdotal or a formal policy.
Okay, Meg, you're going to go ahead.
Do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, there's a lot of active programs that we engage in. We recently had some of our rock stars come up and do a talk on what they're doing on women's rights and so on, which is there's a lot of effort that goes into those kind of things. we're in the recruitment space. We are actively pursuing, looking at different ways that we can to ensure that we get the right diverse blend of people within the business from the top down. So there's a lot of activity in that space, and it's an ongoing work in progress, to be fair.
Yeah, we have an EDI committee, which is equity, diversity, and inclusion. So there's a number of different subcommittees within that really focus to make sure that we sort of are diverse here at Rokt.
I think this question is more for the former graduate software engineers. What sort of training is a new grad at Rokt given? And when do they start working on new features after they start?
So for the training, it's like when you join Rokt at the very first day, your manager will give you suggestions like what tech stacks we use within the team, and like which area do you need to have some knowledge for. So for my team, we use .NET for our backend. So you need to know some like design pattern, what is dependency injection, and how we use middleware to process the request, and you will know how does the middleware work. And actually, we don't have like a specific points to say, oh, you are ready to do the new features. You start it with really simple tasks, and this helps you to get familiar with our code base and how the different systems interact with each other, and have an overview, like the big picture of our company's ecosystem. So you are developing gradually, but not like a very fast speed, but every day you know more than yesterday.
Thanks for sharing. And while I have you guys, would you mind sharing what degrees that you studied before joining the company?
Yes, for me, I graduated from UNSW as well. So back then I'm majoring computer science. Yeah, just general like degree. Yeah.
Okay, for me, I did my bachelor degree in the University of Sydney, major in mathematics and statistics. Then I attended UNSW in the Master of Information Technology degree.
Thank you. I think we might have touched on this in a different angle. I have a question from a student asking about the hardest technical problems that the engineers have faced. So maybe not the most interesting, but the hardest.
I'm not going to jump in here. Maybe Johan Yingzi again, or Andre, maybe?
Okay, for me, the hardest technical problem I faced so far is like in my team, we actually use so many different tech stacks, Clojure, .NET, and TypeScript. So for me, it's kind of difficult for me at the very beginning to jump with those three kind of programming languages. And Clojure actually is a functional programming language. So it's totally different from the OOP. So I spent a lot of time to see what is Clojure, what's the functional programming, and how can I like be a quick coder and do some contributions.
Yeah, I started recently, as I said, like almost 2 months ago. To be honest, there are lots of difficult problems. As I said, some of them are not super interesting, but they're difficult. Just one of the examples, probably, we were planning to integrate with one of the payment solutions, let me put it this way, or financial organizations, and usually it's a straightforward thing to do. You expect to integrate with API, check how it works in sandbox environment, then build something that is going to integrate with it. you know, put infrastructure around it to make sure it's again fault tolerant and stuff. But yeah, it was very difficult because that company is very outdated in terms of tech, and it was very difficult to get the actual understanding how it works on their end, why there are different contracts for the API. So it's just one of the example that was not very interesting, but very difficult to combine all the dots, help them to understand how it works on their side, put things together and understand how we are going to work with them. Something like that.
Okay. I have a question more about the mentality of the engineers. As engineers, do you guys believe in trying to learn many new things at once, or doing one thing well and then moving on to learning something else?
I think we definitely focus on learning one things first and then move to the new things. Because like I think we split up into different teams. Different team has their main focus. Basically, my own data team, our team will focus on doing data stuff, and we're using different tech stack like the other team, like Yuhan's team doing. So we won't like dealing with different things at the same time, and we focus on like learning one thing and doing good, and probably for this one, we try to find some new things coming out and apply to our current system. So I think it's very good for my personal experience, very good for a grad to join. Because like I used to doing like have an internship in a startup company. So what I do there is like we have to learn a mix of different things like front end, back end, data stuff. So like I think in that position, you can't actually learn things and then deep dive into one area. So I think it's really, really good to like work in Rokt in this kind of view. Yeah.
And I also think so it's good for you to learn by do some experiments. Like it's good for you to get your hands dirty. So we are like improving not only just Googling or reading some paper, reading some docs. We are willing to do some real implementation, and we and some more senior engineer will give you the suggestion and do the code review to say, oh, probably this is not the good practice this way. So you keep learning to and keep developing yourself in this track.
Thank you very much. I do have one last question, and that is, can you talk about what tests will come across in the interview process a little bit more? I understand that Meg gave an overview of that, but I think a student wanted to hear a little bit more about that process, if that's.
Seth, can you go through I can tell you a bit about the aptitude test, but I'll get Seth to go through the HackerRank because it doesn't make any sense to me. So the aptitude test is going to ask a series of maths and logic, spatial reasoning, and language questions. The areas that we mainly look at for engineers are sort of the maths and logic and spatial reasoning sections. So that's what we focus on. If there's an issue there, we kind of poke in on it at the following interviews, but that generally just, you know, we also then go to the technical HackerRank test, which enables us to actually understand your computer science knowledge.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't done the test, but the grad test is on HackerRank. I think it's a 2-hour test. You have 3 questions. They are basically testing the knowledge of algorithms and data structures. And so you're posed with 3 different questions and you write some code in a UI on HackerRank, and then you can run the code and it's validated against a handful of unit tests on that code. What I would say is there's plenty of people who can kind of write the code and spit out an answer, but sometimes they're not terribly elegant. So we're also looking for not just code that runs, but code that is good to read and has been thought. There's a good thought process behind it, right? So and a good structure to it. But I actually haven't done the test, so if anyone wants to add any background or thoughts on that, Yuhan, maybe.
Yeah.
In any language, you can choose the language as well. We don't.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
We provide like all those language you prefer to code, like C#, C++, Java, etc. And I'm not sure how can I talk in detail about
Don't give it away.
Yeah.
You guys just have to apply and find out.
No spoilers.
Yeah, so in my case, I remember there are 4 questions and you need to complete within 2 hours. And I think all of them, like the algorithm, like you need to apply appropriate data structures and algorithm to solve the problems. And I think we will test you the time complexity and space complexity to see if your code is efficient. And yeah, just like that.
And I want to add, you definitely like all of the algorithms that you definitely learned at uni. So you won't like throw like really hard questions for you. But basically, for my experience, it's like medium or above.
Yeah. And I think HackerRank, this platform to do the test, is quite convenient because the editor is quite smart. And yeah.
Yeah, a tip for me would be to jump on HackerRank, create an account, and just practice on there. There's loads of practice you can run through them, and then that's a really good start to knowing the UI and what kind of tests you might get.
Yeah, and don't be nervous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, enjoy the ride.
I've had 2 questions pop up actually as you were answering that. I might combine them and then leave that as a last question and let you guys get back to your day. This question is about whether students have to be in their final year to apply for the graduate program. And would you guys be open to candidates who want to work full-time but continue their studies part-time?
In terms of applying, I would recommend applying in your final year and probably not much earlier, because there's a lot can happen between now and a couple of years away. There is no real harm in putting in your interest now, but I would suggest waiting, especially if you weren't going to go through our testing and stuff like that. You might not have learnt some of these algorithms and whatever yet. So I think that it's beneficial to wait until your final year or so, like within that time frame. What was the second part of the question?
Would you be open to hiring someone who would work full-time but continue their studies part-time?
Different times that you've seen so far where we've used the stars.
Perfect.
We can use it to multiply, so 3 star 4, that gives us 12.
Maria, can you mute your... Okay. Yeah, look, I think people have done that in the past. So they've sort of gone on to study their masters at a very sort of slow pace. You just need to make sure that you're able to handle both loads, because obviously we are a very fast-paced company and you've got to be able to handle a full-time workload there. I think, yeah, we have had many people some people have gone back to 4 days a week. I'm not sure if we sort of have had grads do that in the past. So that they can focus on their studies, but we always want people to level up and go to that next, expand their knowledge. So it's something that we are open to discussing. It's just to talk to your manager and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for donating your time to speak to our students. I definitely found it very illuminating. I hope a lot of the students here did as well. Yeah, I'd like to thank, Meg, Seth, Yingji, Yuhan, and Andrew for basically sharing, their, knowledge, answering all of our questions. If any of the students have any further questions, just reach out to CSOC and we'll divert them through. But otherwise, yeah, keep an eye out for their graduate role. I know that it's available on LinkedIn, and their role will be available on their website again very soon.